He's only back a minute. Pinkertons show up.
We've been on the run since you two fools went crazy in Blackwater.
Do you remember Hattie McCourt's face? Who? She was a girl Dutch Vanderlyn shot in the head on that raid on the ferry a few years back. Same one you got shot on. Pretty girl, until her eye was hanging out by a thread of tendon and her brain was plastered over a wall.
Blackwater Massacre. Few, if any, events can compare to this one. Shrouded in complete mystery with no direct details from any singular source telling us what exactly happened, and it's a monumental event because it's tied to so many things. It's not just another bank robbery that just happened to go awry. It's so much more vital than that. The event itself is tied to the very fortunate luck of the Vanderlyn gang. It's often seen as the very first time Dutch showed his true colors by killing the innocent Hattie McCourt. As far as Jose and Arthur's concerns go, this was their first major blunder that they placed on the shoulders of Micah, and it can even be blamed for the gang finding themselves being hunted down by Leviticus Cornwall. You see, if it wasn't for the failed ferry robbery that led to the gang losing all their money and fleeing into the mountains, they would never have come across the O'Driscolls up there, and they wouldn't have needed to steal their plans of hitting Cornwall's train. It may be an indirect result of it, but it's still a symptom of the original failure all the same. It's interesting to think that we never get everything from anyone. Instead, we're left to put together the many different perspectives and small details here and there to figure out what exactly transpired on that ferry and the ensuing gunfight that poured out into the streets of Blackwater. From Arthur's journal, Dutch's own reluctance to open up about what happened, Javier's harrowing personal account, to what the strange man shares in the original Red Dead Redemption game. The details, the immediate and long-lasting results of the Blackwater Massacre are felt across both games, and it's become an event of mythic proportion, shrouded in mystery and unanswered questions where it becomes difficult to tell what fact is and what fiction is.
Hey, I ain't had time to ask. What really went down back there on that boat? We missed you. That's what happened. Come on.
But today I want to talk about if we would ever see the Blackwater Massacre in a future installment of the Red Dead Redemption series, or if it's just one of those things that are always going to be left open to interpretation with no direct on-screen presentation through a cutscene or even via something a little more insignificant, such as a newspaper that may be more quote-unquote specific. Nonetheless, I want to hear from you. Do you think it'll ever be shown, or is it one of those things that are just meant to be left open to interpretation, forever sourced for multiple different things? For most of us, if not all of us, I believe we would love to see what happened and who exactly was involved in this event. If we were to play devil's advocate here for a second and address why it would never be shown, I think there's a few reasons. The first one is it's simply massive. It'll take quite a bit of time to portray everyone that was there. Not just the entire Vanderlyn gang and all the members who perished in the massacre, such as Jenny, Davey, what happened to Sean and Mac, but even those who are rumored to have been there. One person in particular I think everyone would be looking for is the famous gunslinger Landon Ricketts. It's believed he had been present at the time of the robbery and witnessed the gunfight of the Vanderlyn gang and the ensuing Pinkertons supported by local law enforcement. By attempting to shed light on what happened at Blackwater through the presentation of a cutscene, assuming Rockstar went the route of giving us almost no room for interpretation, that'll also be a massive ordeal. I would even say going from the original Red Dead Redemption game to Red Dead Redemption 2, the presentation style in terms of narrative and trying to tell an accurate story of the events unfolding are drastically different, which is no shock. There's about 5 years from the first game's release to the second, and while the first game is great in its own right, the second game's narrative is much more ambitious in just the cinematics, the camera angles, and presentation, which would lead me to my next point. Unless it's directly related to the narrative or the main character of what the next Red Dead Redemption game is, I highly doubt they're going to go that route. If they still wanted to present the massacre in some way, I think the presentation given through the original game cinematics would be much more appropriate. Maybe it'll be something in the background. We'll be given the treat of seeing the Vanderlyn gang members that'll take part in the heist start to form up in key areas of the city, preparing for the robbery and subsequent getaway. We know what's about to happen, but we don't get to see it all take place. We just get this small teaser of movement going on in the background, or the camera panning over to Dutch or Hosea, Micah, or even someone that we don't even see on camera, such as Mac. Either way, it goes without saying this is venturing a little more into the territory of what Red Dead Redemption 3 would be, and if it would even still tie to the Vanderlyn gang. Something I mentioned before I don't think that game should do, but for some people, Dutch and his gang and its members are pillars of what is considered to be a real Red Dead Redemption game. But taking into account how big of a shootout this has to be, remember, it was so bad, Blackwater and the surrounding state of New Austin was completely cut off from us for the entire game, with 24/7 patrols by Pinkerton said to last about a year after it all went down. And even NPCs across both games that referenced the massacre mentioned Blackwater would never recover. By comparison, Micah and Arthur shooting up the entire town of Strawberry, Dutch, Arthur, and John doing it again in Valentine, it happening again in Rhodes and Saint Denis. All of these are nothing when compared to the reaction of what went down in Blackwater. So for the absolute size of it all, cutscenes, dialogue, manpower, resources spent on showing it, on top of weighing how important it is to the next game's plot, or even showing the Blackwater Massacre and how that could affect the knowledge that we do have, is something that really has to be taken into account. If it is shown, we probably won't see it in its entirety. And it'll probably be from a perspective where a few things can finally be set in stone, but obviously not everything. I don't think we will actually see Dutch kill Heidi.
What was that?
Horrible old crone.
But you killed her.
She was gonna betray us, Arthur.
Or the actual events of what happened on the ferry itself. If we do see anything, I think it'll be more on the tail end or catching the very beginning and just feeling that intensity, knowing something is about to go down. Unless Rockstar goes the route of having us play a younger Dutch or Javier. You know, we already played as John, so I think those two would be the options because Javier and John are the ones that are known to actually see Dutch kill Heidi. With obviously Dutch doing it himself, he would have a valid perspective. However, if we do see whatever happened, if there was one thing Rockstar allowed us to officially know, for me, if I wasn't able to see the amount of bloodshed and Pinkertons that were on the gang's tail, a real portrayal of the large number of law enforcement descending on them, or seeing how Dutch and Micah tried to run the ferry job, my wish would rest on the aftermath. Exactly knowing, finally, how notorious was the Vanderlyn gang before and after this job. It's actually very surprisingly difficult to get a good read on how feared the Vanderlyn gang was before or after this job. Yes, this event basically kick-started the downfall of the gang and the continued unfortunate events that they always find themselves falling upon, but even when it comes to the bounties on Arthur's and Dutch's head, every poster you find with Dutch's bounty doesn't have an actual figure on it. And if we're to use Milton as a reference, taking the cutscene where he's in the heart of the Clements Point camp, it's clear he has one man in mind, Dutch Vanderlyn. With the exception of Arthur, who he already met, he doesn't know who anybody else here in the camp is. He assumes who Hosea is, which I think that one's kind of just given because Hosea is noticeably the oldest within the camp, at least as far as all the men go. Dutch is obvious because just his attire, and I'm assuming his aura, can be easily picked up with him being so charismatic and full of himself.
Good day, fine people. Mr. Vanderlyn, Mr. Matthews, I presume. And who are you?
Rip Van Winkle.
Huh. Good day, sir.
But everyone else, we don't know if it's public knowledge or even if it's known to the Pinkertons who these people are individually and what their affiliation is to the Vanderlyn gang. Are they official members? Were they just found here and there with Arthur, who's known to be the fiercest enforcer of the Vanderlyn gang? Or did they just find themselves falling in with Dutch here and there, and it's not officially or widely accepted that they are fully fledged members of the gang? Yes, it would be nice for them to go the route of addressing the strange man and his perspective and whether if he really was there or not, instead of going the mythic route and debunking who the strange man is and his position and whether if he was there or not. Going the route of legendary status and showing if Landon Ricketts was actually there and what his position was and his perspective and whether if he did have some type of hand within this events or not. A Blackwater cutscene would be phenomenal. I think it would answer so many questions. In a weird way, I also think it would present so many more questions. With the knowledge that we do have, the stuff that we are able to scrape together across both games, from characters, newspaper clippings, rumors, or even just the events of the actual games themselves, this event has kind of been pushed into the realm of a fairy tale. And at this point in time, I think as much as I would love to see it, I think it's beneficial for Rockstar to just leave it as it is. It's something that people would only be able to continue to speculate on and continue to add to. And in some ways, it even begs the question of if they do decide to show this in the next game or talk about it or present it in one way or another, is this an event that they're beating to death, or is this something that's really solidifying itself as part of the Red Dead universe? Let me know what you think down below. And like always, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any suggestions, comments, concerns, if there's anything I forgot or anything you want to add, please share down below. Like always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.